Language is our primary means of communication formed by a set of words and grammatical structure. It allows us to translate experience and thought and communicate them to other people. Thus become the basic of culture and civilization. It consists of words that are the symbol that recall object, action, people, and events. To learn a language, it is necessary that they be combined in a particular way and with a certain order. This order is given by the grammatical structure or rules which allow us to gather and order a series of words in a significant sentence. These rules allow each human language to be productive. But let's see how does language learning take place. First, we will analyze the acquisition of its native language that is called L1. According to Skinner's theory of behavior, the child learns to speak through a series of attempts imitating the sounds of people surrounding him. He understands before being able to express himself and capture the value of reflection and the change of tones. The child is driven by the desire to communicate and associates the various meanings of words. Based on initial information, he can create new sentences he has never heard before. This is, according to Chomsky, the reason why the child has innate predisposition to learn languages and then process the information he receives and produce hypotheses on the language that will allow him gradually to discover the rules of to construct sentences. According to Brown, there are 5 stages through which the linguistic development occurs. The first starts at 18 months with the pronunciation of sentences composed of 1 or 2 words. The second comes to 2.5 years. This is the stage of generalization of words. The third is at the age of 3.5 years, when questions are pronounced with the right intonation. In the last 2 stages, we see the development of new sentences put together by the use of the conjunction. But now let's see what happens when learning a second language is called L2. But first we must distinguish different types of learning. The ones I decide to point out are: bilingual learning takes place in a childhood when a family member belongs to another country. In this case, it refers to acquisition more than learning itself, because the second language is assimilated in the same way as the mother tongue, and the process is the same one explained for the L1. The reason is because the bilingual child uses the same area of the brain referred to language for both languages. The other type of learning takes place through teaching in a school environment, such as elementary, high school, college, or through language courses. It is good to know, however, that if this type of learning takes place in childhood or in early elementary school, it will be more effective and easier to learn. Therefore, more spontaneous by learning nursery rhymes, songs, by watching cartoons in the original language, or adapted for this type of teaching. Obviously, learning a language in a school language environment will be different than learning it in the country of the L2 we moved to. The reason is because school teaching follows a different method: the form, the grammar, and the constant monitoring of mistakes. This means a correct use of the language written, but when the L2 is spoken, the result will be very poor. But let's see how the learning process takes place. Learning takes place through 2 main stages, which are listening and speech. The learner identifies by listening the most important parts of the inputs and memorize them. He can access the general knowledge and acquire specific knowledge of L2 is lacking. Setting a correspondence with the speech is analyzing, understanding the acoustic message. We can conclude this step by various comprehending measures that range from not understanding to understanding everything. The learner builds by speaking his own ability in L2, examining the lexical and grammar. The lexicon has an important role in learning because the first attempt to produce speech consists of formula and words. The learner stores the lexical elements, gets to formulate sentences around a verb, and finally gets a linguistic competence that gets closer to the target language. In this stage, the learner uses the general and lexical knowledge that are selected, ordered, and prepared to be converted into language. The route to L2 presents common features to all learners. However, it's also true that at the same time it presents considerable variability that is given by various factors that the most important are the influence that L1 will have on the target language that is considered the typological distance between L1 and L2. The learner will use the L1 only in the event that they have similar structure. Another factor is the individual characteristics due to age, intelligence, motivation, and the attitude that characterizes learner from another. About this last factor, I would like to focus attention on age. It is an important factor in the discussion of nature of learning L2. It is widely known that children learn the L2 better than adults. The reason is they have a neurological structure most suitable to learning a language. Also, they are less distracted by commitment of adult life. This last point was the reason why I decided to choose this topic to discuss my thesis. I will explain you why. Once, my grandfather, when he moved with his family to Canada, brought with him my mother who was 6 years old, and all the other children, including the older sister, my aunt, who is 15 years old than my mother. Once they got there, my mother attended elementary school, while my aunt went to work immediately. A few years later, my grandfather decided to return to Italy, bringing back my mother, who was 12 years old, while my aunt continued and still continues to live there. The point is that although my mother was in Canada for a few years, she was a different pronunciation. Her accent is perfect, while my aunt's is still fluenced by the Italian accent. So I was able to verify personally that learning a second language in the very first years of school represents the ideal situation, and thanks to the study of this subject at university, I finally found all the answer I was looking for, and I said, why not treat it as a thesis topic so that maybe people unaware of this can share a topic that is fundamental in our lives?